Welcome to Mixology, where we launch each episode mixing up a beverage as we discuss how customer education and customer marketing mix together as scale engines to customer success. I'm Kristine Kukich, and along with Shannon Howard, we're talking about the word no. How do you gracefully say you don't have the time, the bandwidth, the resources? And this time, it's an espresso martini. Here's the ingredients: 2 ounces of Crater Lake hazelnut espresso vodka, 1 ounce of espresso, 1 ounce of whipping cream, and 1/2 ounce of simple syrup.
And we are now into the mixing part of the drink. So let's mix our espresso martini. I've got my shaker filled with ice. And let's start with 2 ounces of the alcohol. I'm using that Crater Lake hazelnut, remember? And the espresso. Little bit of sugar. So I've got that simple syrup, just a little bit, give it a little bit of sweetness. And because I'm leveraging so much espresso, both in the vodka and as the espresso straight up, I'm going to add just a tad bit of cream, which would substitute for something like Kahlua, right? If you were using it the other way. Then we're going to go ahead, cover that up, and give it a shake. Off it comes. Strainer on top. Into my hand-decorated martini glass. And garnish as you like.
And this is what that espresso martini looks like in my lovely hand-painted martini glass. I got it from a friend for Christmas one year. She drew my name in the Holly lottery for Christmas presents, and she was very kind to hand paint a set of 4 martini glasses.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, oh my gosh, that is so good. Oh my gosh, it's the same hazelnut stuff that we used in the chocolate, in the hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm living curiously through you, Kristine. We're across the country from each other, y'all. Like every time we do this. Yeah. Okay. But today we're talking about saying no. No, the big NO. It's a full sentence. We're going to talk about it and how we use it well at work.
One of the reasons that this became a topic is in the pre-conversations that we have before we get started in recording, we talk about what's going on in our lives at the moment. And both of us in the same week had this conversation with, I had to tell them we didn't have the bandwidth to do this. And how do we say it's still a good idea without saying, and still say, no, we can't do it right now, at least right now, right? And so the first part of it, the question is, I read a post just last week in another forum that I'm really very involved in, and the question was, how important is it to say no? Because what happens if you say yes every time? So lead on. Go with the description.
Okay. It is important to say no because we can't do it all. We are but finite human beings. There's only so much. Most of us have more work than we know what to do with. And so realistically, we just can't take on more. The more we take on, the worse we do all of it. You know, that's just the reality. We can't give everything 100% when we have a lot of things on our plate. And I think one of the things we have to get good at is saying yes to the right thing, which means prioritizing. And that's very hard because most of us, we see opportunity and we want to solve problems and we want to help out, but we just can't do it all. And then sometimes when we commit ourselves or our teams to a lot, like we all suffer together. We all just suffer the too much work. And then we wonder, well, why is it that we're doing all these things, but nobody sees the value? And sometimes it's because we're so in the activity that we're not really focusing on what's most impactful. Like we're not focusing our efforts where they matter most. And then we just end up doing a lot with not a lot to show for it on the numbers board. Would
And
you
I that
agree,
one of
disagree?
the conversations I had last week was if you say yes to everything, then you you dilute the meaning of the yes,
Ooh, yeah.
right? Because if if everyone comes to you and they just know you're going to say yes, then they just tend to throw more and more in your
hmm
direction,
Oh yeah.
knowing that you will pick it up and you will do enough with it
hmm
that it's acceptable,
hmm
right? They're not
Well,
even looking for outstanding, right? They're looking for
good
just
enough.
it to get good enough. And
Well,
and is that the way with that? I don't know that that's what I want my team and I to be known for,
yes, yeah.
is
It's
we'll
just the
do anything
willingness.
that anyone asks.
No.
I would rather have them say, look at what they do, look how much value it brings. And if
hmm
we're clouding it up with things that number one may not even be our responsibility,
hmm
right? How do we become laser focused on the tasks for which we are responsible for and do them well if we're taking on all of these other things that get thrown
hmm
in our direction?
hmm Well, oh, what was I think? Um, Someone told me this about when you start a new job to not say yes to everything in the beginning because then you establish this like you're just going to take everything that gets thrown your way. And you have to take that with a grain of salt because I do think that there are sometimes times that you and we, this we'll do this another day, but like how do you navigate the business and relationships in the business? Sometimes you do things to build favors. Like I sometimes I'm doing something because it didn't take me too long, but it just won me some influence with someone that I'm going to cash in on later. And so sometimes there's like a strategy to that, but if our habit is just always say yes, then we probably don't know what is most important. And that is not, a strategic place to be, right? It means that people look at you, your leadership team is looking and saying maybe they don't know what matters most. And that's something that they're looking for in people that they're elevating. But then, and we're going to talk about this now, like I think there's a way that you do it the right way because sometimes people, under the heading of, well, I want to only work on strategic projects and the right things and whatever, just say no. And then they become known as difficult, hard to work with,
Right.
uncollaborative, no, like they're blockers to success. And we don't want that either. So, Kristine, how do we say
So,
no? Yeah.
right, how do we navigate and how do we gracefully say no without giving the impression that it's a bad idea?
Yeah.
Right. And when it's not, I mean, a lot of the time the idea itself is really, really good, but
hmm
we we miss out on capacity. You and I've had that conversation a lot as well, right? How the
hmm
idea that there are only X number of hours in a week.
hmm
And if we are capacity planning against projects that we have to work on, a certain percentage of time is I call it nonsense time or junk time. It's the
Yeah.
time in regular recurring meetings. They're
hmm
building
Admin
relationships, they're
time,
selling value, yeah, admin stuff that we need to do, filling out our performance reviews and doing
compliance
the
training.
RKO. Yeah. So, so there's all of those things. There's the recurring tasks that we're
Yeah.
responsible for. Might be time entry. It might be again that recurring meeting with the team on whatever we're building those bridges, we're building the team reliability, all of that kind of thing. It's a positive interaction, and it happens weekly, bi-weekly, whatever, but it happens. We can't ignore it, right? So now we're already down to in our 40-ish hour week that we're down 30%
hmm
already
Yeah.
in just all of the recurring tasks aside from the promises we've already made, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tasks, the things that are KPI related, the things that are a part of the goals that we set for our team and the organization, and we are actively pursuing the activities to meet those goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another 40 or 50%,
Yeah.
because that's we should be spending most of our time on the things that we are, that are going to make the
Yeah.
business better, that are going to show our value, right? That are going to showcase what we bring,
Mm-hmm.
and what our customers are doing. And then there's the personal development time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's not a lot, right? Strategically, when you're thinking about it, 5 to 7, maybe 10% of time is spent on, but 10% of 40 hours is 4 hours a
4
week.
hours. Yeah.
That's a lot of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the reality, we see a number closer to 5%, maybe 7% of time in the week is spent on making sure your team is getting an opportunity to build on their
Mm-hmm.
skill sets or learn new skills that will take them in the right direction, whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so now we're at something like 93%,
Yeah.
87, maybe. It might be 87, but I didn't do the math in my head as I was making up numbers as I went along. But so we don't have a lot of time left. How do we then gracefully say, no,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, we don't have the bandwidth to do this,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Yeah.
don't, and that's sometimes that it's that simple. Um, the formula that I tend to use is thank you, but no,
Mm-hmm.
as my starting point, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was nice of you to think of us to do this, but we don't have the bandwidth. I'm at capacity right now. I just did this for, like, yesterday, to a
Mm-hmm.
request where I said, unfortunately, I am at capacity right now for the next 6 months. And I'll be happy to refer you to someone else. Here, let me make that connection for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think that they might be able to help you in a way that I really truly just cannot do right now. I just do
Mm-hmm.
not have time. I am a one person shop these days, and
Mm-hmm.
I am trying not to work 60 or 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't. I honestly do not do that anymore, ever. Hardly
Yeah.
ever. Right.
And this
So
is,
so what go ahead.
yeah, well, I think it's also fighting, right? And 'cause so I'm a big fan of expectations. What's normal? And what can we expect? And I think that we have made working crazy hours normal, especially in tech. We work 40, you said 40-ish hours a week, and we all know what that means because 40 is the floor. It's not usually the cap. And so most of us are used to working more. And then because we're in this, most of us remote distributed work world, and because our schedules are flexible and whatever, it's like we don't always think about our time and capacity. And we've made it normal to just have all this. And then a lot of us feel insecure if we don't have enough, right? If I'm not doing my 40 plus, do they find value in me? Am I going to get fired? Like there's a lot of insecurity there too. So like I want to kind of like acknowledge that at the top, that I think sometimes saying no, it's a job security thing, but this is where I think we can talk about like, well, how do you have job security and also say no and have boundaries and a good life? Like because I think you could have it all. And part of it, and go back if you haven't listened to this episode, we talked about how do you create a good strategy. And I think that the most important part of saying no well is that you have to have a strategy, and a strategy is documented and it is communicated and it is referenced regularly. And so part of that is in the development of your strategy, you're talking to other teams and you're getting inputs. What are your goals? What are your priorities? What are the requests that you have? And we're gathering these inputs so other people have a chance to say this is what matters, this is what we could use help with. We're looking at our team goals, company goals, prioritizing. And once we have a documented, socialized plan, now we have something that everybody has agreed to. It's documented, agreed to, socialized, that we can go back to. Hey, at the beginning of the quarter, we had talked about this, that, and the third being a priority. And this is not one of those things. Is there something that you'd like to move up the priority list? But if we don't have something that's documented, if we never socialized it, and if it's not agreed to by other people, then we have nothing that we can like use to push back on. And this is the thing that shows like we're strategic thinkers. We know what matters. We're trying to focus on what matters most because otherwise it's just personality versus personality. And it's not actually like based on business impact and goals and priorities and strategic like focus.
And I call it the rule of three. I say that realistically, given the time constraints that we've already talked about, as a team, we really can only focus on three things. And so when I build the strategy and we're talking about what it looks like,
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at three things. We're looking at the three things that we can most quickly impact. They may be subdivisions of bigger picture things because I'm going to be Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So the
Sure.
three things are not necessarily going to be the same throughout all of the quarters that we're focused on, but the structure is I can only do these three things and they're supporting these big picture items, whatever that means, right? And again, if
Mm-hmm.
we've done the communicating that we need across the rest of the leadership, then everybody understands this is what we're focused on this quarter. If you're bringing me something new, does it fit in the three? Is it a part of one of these things? If it's not, how does it supersede any one of these to get time on the calendar? Because
Mm-hmm.
at this point in time, we are 100% focused on these things. And if you want this other thing to happen, then it would have to be an afterthought, which means the timeline is completely amorphous. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot
Yeah.
commit to having it done by the end of the quarter. I cannot commit resources to it on any kind of regular basis because we've already committed the team to
Mm-hmm.
these three things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that this isn't a great idea, but it means that maybe in the leadership, we need to figure out how it fits more closely into the picture that we're already trying to draw, the story that
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to tell about us as a team, about our organization, about the work that we do. How do we deliver against the promises we've made to our customers and the
Mm-hmm.
promises we've made to everyone else out there? Our, if we're a public organization, we've made promises to a lot of people. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right, how does that work? How do we deliver against those promises and yet take on this new thing? And the answer isn't I'm not going to do it. It's
Mm-hmm.
given the priorities that we have, this doesn't fit. How do we
Mm-hmm.
how does we then figure out should it fit or should it
Yeah.
wait until the
Mm-hmm.
priorities better align with that
Mm-hmm.
particular task at hand?
Which I think is an important part of no in general that most of us don't know or learn. We're not taught this is that no doesn't mean not ever. It often means not now, right? And I was just reading something the other day that was like the right idea at the wrong time is the wrong idea. It could be a great idea, but if it's the wrong timing, it's not the right idea. And it's like knowing, and this is part of strategic thinking, is like knowing what is the right thing at the right time and being willing to say, hey, and sometimes this is also like something I think is not culturally normal, should be, is I consider that it is part of my job to help other people around me grow and learn and develop. So part of my job is coaching and mentoring. That's true as a manager, as a leader, but also just as a professional. So I'm trying to help other people come along and understand, hey, you know what? I really love that idea. Right now, the business has not prioritized that product line. And so while I love that idea, I'm going to have to put it on the back burner for now. I'm going to put it on the backlog because I do think this would be something that would be great at some point in time, but the business has just decided that it's not a priority right now. And so I get why you want to do this. I get why you want to move this forward, but you and I both have to be okay that the business might have priorities that are different from our own preferences. And so I'm also doing a lot of coaching too with other people because sometimes people get kind of pissy and then they go stomp around and tell someone, Shannon's not being helpful, you know? And it's like, well, no, this is just not actually a business priority. And so, like, I love the idea. I would love to support you with this, but realistically, it's not a priority for the business. And then other people in the leadership team like, yes, correct. Like, why are we entertaining
Well,
this
and
idea?
and truthfully, it also opens up for future discussion. The fact that this is a great idea, but it wasn't part of this planning process. So I
Hmm.
can't, we can't elevate it, right? It is at the wrong time. but let's
Hmm.
integrate it into the next discussion so that we can see when the right time might be.
Yeah.
Right. So
And
we can, it's not that we're saying
yeah.
no for no, we're saying
Hmm.
no, it's not right now, but let's
Hmm.
see if we can't make this happen. And sometimes the answer really is no. It is that
Yeah.
this this is not a priority for us in the foreseeable future, right? 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
This is not going to
And
make it.
it's and that's figuring out how to prioritize. And again, it's like I think a lot of us, we love to solve problems. We love a good project. You know, there are maybe things that we're personally very passionate about that we want to see change. And then sometimes we just have to set that aside to be like, okay, what is the thing in front of me? Because I really think sometimes a lot of our overwhelm is self-inflicted because we champion something that the business doesn't want, isn't ready for, isn't investing in, and we've taken up this charge. And it's like, okay, calm down. I've had to do that where there are things, Daniel Play and I have had this conversation. There was something that he had proposed and he had a whole plan written up, and it took 2 years for his business to be ready for that. And I learned a lot from his situation of, okay, there's a time and there's a place, and I want to be prepared and I want to be thoughtful. And maybe now I'll take some time to document my thoughts and what I think would be a good approach. But if the business isn't ready for it, I don't want to force it, right? Because that's just going to make my life harder and it's going to make my job harder and it's not really going to go anywhere. And then we're going to end up in this like, whether it's just frustration cycle or we're not going to be able to focus on the work that's really impactful. And so sometimes I think that's even just a self-disciplining. We were talking before we started recording today about a lot of professional development is really personal development of
Mhm.
of like making my own peace with not getting my way and things like not happening on my timeline and just being okay with what the business is ready for. And sometimes it's like, all right, I would like something different. But I'm just going to be okay with that.
And also that little nudge that the project itself may be important enough for me personally that I
Hmm.
will pull it outside of the realm of the business, right? It could
Yeah.
be an
It,
industry specific kind of thing. It could be something that opens a conversation with customers in a way that we've not done before. And I'm still going to do that. I'm just going to do it in my, I don't know, 7% of a week that I have.
hmm
That's my personal development because this and if it turns into a fruition project, then I can publicize it to the and socialize it to the rest of the
hmm
organization in a way that says, and I was working on this in my spare time and this is what I came up with.
hmm
And now we have this cool thing or
Yeah.
not. It
Yeah.
was an abject failure and I learned from it. I won't do it that way again, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But so then the three things then, I,
hmm
how important is it to say no big time, right?
Important.
You
Yeah.
have to be able to control your time and your effort and your resources. And no can be a complete sentence.
hmm
However, number two, about being graceful.
hmm
If you just say no, then you risk being considered a blocker. If
hmm
you say no gracefully and explain the reasons that no
hmm
is the response right now, then you're giving people an opportunity to better understand your arm of the business in a way
hmm
that they may not have before.
hmm
And then go to formula,
hmm
right? Again, pick a way that works best for you. Say
Yeah,
no,
I
but
put this in my
but explain,
backlog.
right?
Maybe circle back to this. And this could be true of, hey, do you have a few minutes to connect? Can I pick your brain on whatever? Hey, really busy right now. Like honored that you reached out. Could you circle back in February? Could you circle back in March and put it back on the other person to follow up later and see what happens? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But you've given yourself a moment to pause and focus on what matters most.
Make your plans, create your own graceful no,
Mm-hmm. It's
practice it,
okay. We can do it.
and you could do it, right? You could do it.
Yeah.
All right. See you next time then. Get out.
Everybody.